I was standing outside Lily's dorm when Marcus grabbed my arm and said, "Ryan, if you ever lose her, I swear you'll lose your mind." I laughed and said, "I won't lose her. She's my future." That was the moment I should have known how stupid I sounded. I pushed the door open, heart loud, hope louder. "Ryan." Lily smiled. "You're early." "I missed you," I said. She kissed my cheek. "You always say that. Because it's always true." Marcus coughed. "I'm gonna disappear before you two melt. Text me later," I told him. He grinned. "Always." Lily took my hand. "Come on, let's walk." We crossed the quad. I said, "After graduation, I'm thinking Chicago." She said, "Big city dream again?" "Marketing firm. Good pay. We get an apartment. Maybe a dog." She laughed. "You and that dog. You'd love him." "Maybe," she said, "I somewhere else." I kept talking. "My scholarship covers the rest of this year. One more semester. Then real life." She nodded. "Ryan, you talk like everything's planned." "It is. With you." She squeezed my hand. "You're sweet." Marcus texted, "You two are gross." I replied, jealous. In class, Dylan slid into the seat behind Lily. "Morning, lovebirds." "Morning," I said. Lily smiled politely. "Hey." Dylan said, "Group project today. Guess we're stuck together." "Yeah," I said, "lucky us." He laughed. "Relax, man." Professor Adams started lecturing. I wrote notes. Lily didn't. She stared at her phone. "You okay?" I whispered. "Yeah," she said. "Just tired." After class I said, "Lunch?" She said, "I can't. Meeting with my cousin." I said, "You didn't mention that." I forgot. Marcus caught up. "Basketball later?" "Can't," I said. "Study." He said, "Liar. You're whipped." I shrugged. "Maybe." That night I called my mom. "I'm doing good." She said, "You eating enough?" "Always." She said, "I'm proud of you, son." I said, "I won't mess this up." She said, "Just stay kind." Next morning Lily didn't reply to my good morning text. At noon I sent another. Nothing. I found her near the library. "Hey." "Oh, hi," she said. "You didn't answer." "Phone died." "You okay?" "Yeah." I wanted to believe her. I said, "Dinner tonight?" She hesitated. "Maybe." Dylan walked by. "Lily, you coming?" "Yeah," she said quickly. My chest tightened. "Coming where?" She said, "Study group." "With him?" She sighed. "Ryan, don't start. I'm just asking." "Stop," she said. I said, "Okay." That night Marcus called. "You good?" "Yeah." "You don't sound good." "Just tired." He said, "Want me to come over?" "No. Tomorrow." The week moved strange. Lily laughed less. She checked her phone more. I kept telling myself love meant trust. Friday I said, "Movie night?" She said, "I can't." "Why?" "Stuff." "What stuff?" She looked away. "I'll explain later." I said, "Lily, talk to me." She said, "I don't want to fight." I said, "I don't either." She said, "Can we just not do this now?" I nodded even though my chest hurt. Saturday Marcus said, "Bro, Dylan's been around Lily a lot." I said, "They're studying." Marcus said, "I don't trust him." "I do." Marcus stared. "That's what scares me." Earlier that day Professor Adams stopped me in the hall. "Ryan, a minute." I said, "Sure, Professor." He said, "Your grades are solid but don't slip. The scholarship committee is watching." I said, "I know. I won't disappoint." He said, "Pressure makes or breaks people." I said, "I'm built for it." He smiled. "I hope so." After that I ran into Sophia, the girl. She said, "Hey Ryan." I said, "Hi." She said, "You dropped your notes." I said, "Thanks." She hesitated. "Are you okay?" I laughed. "Why does everyone ask that?" She said, "Because you look like you're carrying something heavy." I said, "Just life." She nodded. "If you ever need a study partner." I said, "Maybe." She smiled and left. I called Lily. "Can we talk?" She said, "Later." I said, "When?" She said, "I'm busy." I said, "With Dylan?" Silence. I said, "Lily?" She said, "Please don't." I said, "Don't what?" She said, "Make this harder." I said, "I'm not trying to." She said, "I have to go." The call ended. I stood there, phone in my hand, feeling the future wobble. Marcus texted, Food? I said, not hungry. He replied, you're always hungry. I said, not today. He said, I'm coming over. I said, no. He arrived. Eat. I said, he said, tell me. I said, she's changing. He said, people change. I said, not like this. He said, what do you want? I said, the truth. He said, then ask for it. I said, I did. He said, and? I said, nothing. He put his hand on my shoulder. You'll survive whatever happens. I said, I don't want to survive. I want us. He said, sometimes that's the same thing. Sunday night I sat on my bed, books open, future in my head. Chicago. Apartment. Duck. Her laugh. Our life. My phone buzzed. Lily, we need to talk. My chest tightened, I couldn't breathe. I left the dorm the moment Lily sent the address. My hands shook while I typed it into my phone. Marcus called. I didn't answer. The night air felt too quiet. I reached the street and saw Dylan's car. The engine was running. The windows were half down. I stopped behind a tree. Lily said, you promised this wouldn't happen. Dylan said, relax. Nobody knows. Lily said, Ryan will know. Dylan laughed. Ryan always trusts you. Lily whispered, that's what makes this worse. I stepped closer. My chest hurt. Dylan said, get in the car. We're already here. Lily said, I shouldn't. Dylan said, you already did. I walked to the door and yanked it open. Already did what? Lily screamed, Ryan? Dylan smirked. Oh, hey. I said, get out. Lily said, wait please. I said, get out of the car. She opened the door slowly. Ryan, I can explain. I said, explain what I just heard. Dylan leaned back. Man, you're overreacting. I punched the hood. Shut up. Lily cried, Ryan, please don't do this here. I said, do what? Hear the truth. She whispered, I didn't mean to hurt you. I said, did you cheat on me? She couldn't look at me. Yes. The word hit me like ice. I said, with him? She nodded. Dylan shrugged. It happened. I said, you don't even care. He smiled. Why should I? My hand shook. I wanted to break something. I wanted to break him. Lily reached for me. Ryan, I was confused. I stepped back. Don't touch me. She cried, I still love you. I laughed, loud and empty. You don't even know what love is. Dylan said, this is between you two. I said, no, this is you ruining my life. He opened his door. I'm leaving. I blocked him. You're not walking away from this. He pushed me. I stumbled. Marcus shouted, Ryan? He ran up and grabbed my arm. Don't. I said, let me go. He said, you'll regret it. Lily cried, Marcus, please? Dylan slipped past us and drove off. I stood there shaking. Lily whispered, I'm so sorry. I said, how long? She said, a few weeks. I said, every time you said you were busy. She nodded. I said, every time you looked away. She cried harder. I said, you watched me plan a future with you. She said, I didn't know how to stop. I said, you stopped being my future. She reached out. Please don't leave. I said, I already lost you. Marcus pulled me back. Come on. Lily fell to her knees. Ryan. I walked away. Marcus said, I'm proud of you for not doing something worse. I said, I feel nothing. He said, that's shock. We reached my room. He stayed by the door. You want me to stay? I said, no. He nodded. Call me. I sat on the bed. The wall in front of me didn't move. Hours passed. My phone buzzed. Lily, please answer. I didn't. Lily, I'm sorry. I didn't. Lily, I made a mistake. I didn't. Lily, I love you. I turned the phone face down. The sun came up. My chest still hurt. My eyes were dry. My head felt empty. I didn't sleep. I just watched the wall. My phone buzzed again. Lily, please talk to me. Lily, I can explain everything. Lily, don't do this. I didn't reply. The room felt small. The night replayed inside my head. Marcus texted, you home? I typed, yes. He wrote, you okay? I typed, no. He wrote, I'm coming. I said, don't. He said, too late. He knocked. Open the door. I opened it. He said, sit. I sat. He said, tell me. I said, she admitted it. He said, with him. I nodded. He said, how bad? I said, bad. He said, I'm here. I said, I feel stupid. He said, you're not. I said, I trusted her. He said, that's not a crime. I said, it feels like one. He said, what do you want to do? I said, disappear. He said, you can't. I said, I don't want to see anyone. He said, I'll sit. We sat in silence. My phone buzzed. Lily, I never meant for this to happen. Lily, please just hear me. Lily, Ryan, please. I said nothing. Marcus said, delete the messages. I said, I can't. He said, then don't answer. I stared at the screen. Lily, I chose wrong. Lily, I hate myself. Lily, please don't hate me. Marcus said, she's scared. I said, so am I. He said, but she caused this. I nodded. Another message. Lily, I'll wait outside your door. I stood up. Marcus blocked me. No. I said, she can't be here. He said, she doesn't get that choice. Lily, I'm in the hall. Lily, Ryan. Lily, please. I typed, go home. She replied, I can't. I typed, please leave. She wrote, I'm sorry. I turned the phone off. Marcus said, good. I said, it still hurts. He said, it will. We sat again. The room stayed quiet. After a while he said, you want water? I nodded. He handed me the bottle. I said, thanks. He said, I'm not leaving tonight. I said, okay. The wall stayed the same color. The ceiling didn't move. My chest kept beating too hard. Morning light came through the window. Marcus said, try to sleep. I said, I can't. He said, then breathe. I breathed. My phone turned back on. New messages. Lily, I'm still here. Lily, I'll wait. Lily, I love you. I stared at the words until they blurred. I whispered, why did you do this to us? The room stayed silent. I didn't answer her. The first thing I heard when I stepped on campus was whispering. Not quiet whispering either. The kind that stops when Ryan Carter walks past. Marcus said, ignore it. I said, I can hear everything. He said, people get bored fast. I said, not of this. We passed Dylan Brooks near the fountain. Dylan Brooks laughed too loud and slapped a friend on the shoulder. Dylan Brooks looked at Ryan Carter and smirked. Marcus muttered, I swear I hate that guy. I said, so do I. Across the quad Lily Morgan stood with two girls. Lily Morgan's eyes were red. Lily Morgan saw Ryan Carter and started crying harder. One of the girls hugged Lily Morgan. Another glared at Ryan Carter. Marcus whispered, this is turning ugly. I said, I know. I didn't go to class that day. I went to the library and sat behind a shelf where nobody looked for anyone. My phone buzzed. Marcus, where are you? I typed, library. Marcus, class. I typed, not today. Minutes later Sophia Turner appeared at the end of the aisle. Sophia Turner said, Ryan Carter? I looked up. Yeah. Sophia Turner held up my notebook. This fell from the table. I said, thanks. Sophia Turner didn't leave. Are you okay? I laughed without sound. Does it look like it? Sophia Turner shrugged. People look worse when they pretend. I said, you don't even know me. Sophia Turner said, I know the eyes. I said, what eyes? Sophia Turner said, the kind that stopped sleeping. I looked at the book. I didn't come here to talk. Sophia Turner nodded. Okay. Sophia Turner started to walk away then turned back. If Ryan Carter wants company, Sophia Turner is 2 tables over. I didn't answer. An hour later I moved to her table. Sophia Turner smiled. Progress. I said, I didn't want the silence. Sophia Turner said, same. We sat there with our books open. Sophia Turner said, so. I said, so. Sophia Turner said, people say a lot of things. I said, people always do. Sophia Turner said, none of it defines Ryan Carter. I stared. You barely know me. Sophia Turner said, I know pain. I said, then you know it doesn't leave. Sophia Turner said, it changes. I didn't reply. Professor Adams found me the next morning outside the hall. Ryan Carter. I said, Professor Adams? Professor Adams said, you missed class. I said, I know. Professor Adams said, twice. I said, I know. Professor Adams said, scholarship committee asked about attendance. My chest tightened. What did you say? Professor Adams said, that Ryan Carter is better than this. I said, I'm trying. Professor Adams said, try harder. Failing now changes everything. I nodded. Marcus met me after. You look worse. I said, thanks. Marcus said, did you hear about Lily Morgan? I said, no. Marcus said, Lily Morgan cried during lecture. Walked out. I said, good. Marcus frowned. Ryan Carter. I said, she didn't cry for me. Marcus said, this is tearing everyone apart. I said, I'm not everyone. I skipped the rest of the week. My mother called Sunday night. Ryan, why do you sound tired? I'm just studying. Your voice sounds wrong. I'm fine. Are you eating? Yes. Our class is going well. Great. You always lie when something is wrong. I laughed. Not this time. Silence. Ryan. Yes, Mom. I know something happened. I said I'm fine. Ryan Carter, do not shut me out. I swallowed. I'm just stressed. Come home if you need. I can't. Why? I have exams. You don't sound like yourself. I will be. Promise? I promise. The call ended and my hands shook. Marcus came later with food. Eat. I'm not hungry. Eat anyway. I ate. Marcus said, Dylan Brooks posted pictures. I looked up. What pictures? Marcus showed me his phone. Dylan Brooks and Lily Morgan at a party from months ago. Too close. Too comfortable. I pushed the phone away. I don't care. Marcus said, liar. I said, what do you want from me? Marcus said, to stop destroying yourself. I said, I didn't break anything. Marcus said, you broke. I said, I'm still standing. Marcus said, barely. The next day I went back to the library. Sophia Turner was already there. Sophia Turner said, thought Ryan Carter quit school. I said, thinking about it. Sophia Turner closed the book. Don't? I said, why not? Sophia Turner said, because pain shouldn't steal everything. I said, it already took the most important thing. Sophia Turner said, that thing lied. I stared at the table. Sophia Turner said, Ryan Carter deserves better than a lie. I didn't answer. Outside, Dylan Brooks laughed again. Lily Morgan cried again. Whispers followed me again. I walked past all of it. That night my mother texted, I love you. I typed, I love you too. I stared at the wall until morning. I felt trapped. I still said nothing. Lily stood outside my dorm when I came back from class. Ryan, please talk to me. I stopped. You said enough already. Lily said, I made a mistake. I said, you made a choice. Lily said, I didn't think. I said, that's worse. She stepped closer. I still love you. I laughed. Love doesn't do that. She grabbed my sleeve. Please don't give up on us. I pulled away. There is no us. She started crying. Ryan, don't do this. I said, you already did. Dylan walked by and clapped slowly. Touching scene. I turned. Get lost. Dylan smirked. Relax. You'll thank me later. I walked up to him. Say that again. Marcus appeared between us. Stop. Dylan shrugged. Enjoy the drama. He left laughing. Lily whispered, I'm so sorry. I said, so am I. I went to Professor Adams that afternoon. I want to withdraw. Professor Adams stared. Why? I said, I can't stay here. Professor Adams said, this is temporary pain. I said, this place feels poisoned. Professor Adams sighed. Your scholarship. I said, I know. Professor Adams said, you're throwing away years. I said, I'm saving myself. Professor Adams nodded slowly. Paperwork is in the office. I filled out the forms with shaking hands. Marcus met me after. What did you do? I said, I withdrew. Marcus's face dropped. You can't. I said, I did. Marcus said, Ryan, this is crazy. I said, staying is crazy. Marcus said, one girl isn't worth your future. I said, this isn't about her anymore. Marcus said, then what is it? I said, me. Marcus's voice cracked. Don't leave. I said, I have to. He grabbed my shoulders. Fight here. Don't run. I said, I'm not running. He said, this feels like running. I said, this feels like breathing. We stood there in silence. That night I packed my bag. Lily called. I ignored it. Lily texted, I heard you're leaving. I didn't answer. Lily, please don't. I didn't answer. Marcus knocked. Open. I opened. He said, tell me you're joking. I said, bus leaves at dawn. He sat on my bed. You can stay at my place. I said, I need to go. He said, you're scared. I said, yes. He said, then stay. I said, I'm more scared of staying. He rubbed his face. Where will you go? I said, anywhere. He said, that's not a plan. I said, it's enough. He looked at my bag. What about Lily? I said, she's not my problem. He said, she's losing it. I said, so am I. Marcus whispered, this is breaking my heart. I said, mine already broke. He stood. Call me. I nodded. After he left, I called my mother. Ryan, what's wrong? I'm coming home. When? Tonight. What happened? I'll explain later. Are you okay? No. Get here safe. I will. I hung up and zipped the bag. I left the dorm without telling anyone else. The city felt quiet. The bus station smelled like rain and coffee. I bought a ticket. The bus arrived. I sat by the window. My phone buzzed. Lily, Ryan, please answer. I typed, I'm leaving. Lily, where? I typed, away. Lily, don't go. I didn't reply. The bus pulled out. The campus disappeared behind buildings. My chest hurt. My hands shook. My head felt empty. I closed my eyes. Marcus texted, I'm proud of you and angry at you. I typed, both are fair. He wrote, call me when you land. I typed, I will. I watched the city fade. My heart felt heavy but lighter at the same time. I whispered, this is the end of that life. The road stretched forward. I didn't know where I was going. I only knew I wasn't staying. I leaned my head against the glass. My phone buzzed again. Lily, I'll wait for you. I turned the phone off. The bus moved faster. The sky changed color. I breathed. I felt broken. I felt free. This was my turning point. I woke up before sunrise. My alarm didn't matter. Construction boots sat by the door. I pulled on a hard hat and gloves. Jake Wilson was waiting at the site. Ryan Carter? Jake said. Yeah, I said. Long time. Too long, I muttered. Jake grinned. You ready to lift some steel? I said, as ready as I'll ever be. The day began with concrete and noise. Hammering, drilling, yelling. I didn't complain. My hands bled a little. My body ached. I liked it. Pain felt honest. Jake said, you ever think about school? I said, not today. Jake laughed. Good answer. During lunch, I sat on a beam, sandwich in hand. The city sprawled below. My phone buzzed. Lily Morgan. I ignored it. Jake said, you gonna check that? I said, nope. He nodded. Smart. I remembered her smile anyway. Quiet. Bright. Her laugh. My chest ached. Jake said, you okay? I said, I will be. The afternoon passed in sweat and dust. I fell asleep on the bus home. When I woke, my apartment was empty. My own thoughts. My own quiet. I called Marcus. Ryan Carter. Marcus said, hey. You alive? I am. You sound different. Busy. Busy fixing broken hearts? I laughed. Something like that. I'm glad you're okay, Marcus said. I'm fine, I said. I started blocking Lily Morgan's number. Every message erased. Every memory tucked behind a wall I built for myself. At night I ran. Streets empty. Lights dim. I felt my lungs burn. I felt alive. Jake called one night. You lifting weights too? Yeah, I said. And my head. Jake laughed. That's new. I said, I need it. I train like a soldier. Push-ups, pull-ups, running. My body hurt. My mind sharpened. I thought about school, about the future. About Lily Morgan. About Ryan Carter. Marcus asked, you angry? I said, some days. Do you want revenge? I said, not anymore. Marcus said, so what now? I said, I rebuild. I told Jake, I'll help you with your crew. He smiled. Glad to have you back. I fought loneliness with action. My apartment smelled like protein shakes and sweat. Music blared. I hummed songs Lily Morgan used to sing. I smiled sometimes. Quietly. Jake asked, ever think you'll go back to school? I said, maybe someday. He nodded. Ryan Carter always was smart. I said, brains aren't enough without heart. Jake said, good thing you've got both. I kept training. Every day. My hands rough. My legs strong. My arms thick. My chest pushed out. My mind sharper than ever. Marcus texted, "You look different in your pictures." I typed, "I feel different." He replied, "Good different?" I typed, "Yes." The city grew quiet at night. I ran the streets, shadows stretching behind me. No whispers. No judgment. No betrayal. Just Ryan Carter. I bought new notebooks. I wrote plans, lists, goals. I read books Marcus recommended. I studied finance and marketing on my own. I trained my mind and body equally. Jake said, "You're changing fast." I said, "I need to." He said, "For what?" I said, "For myself." The more I pushed, the lighter I felt. Lily Morgan became a shadow I could see but no longer touch. Dylan Brooks disappeared from my thoughts. Pain transformed into determination. Marcus called one night. "Feeling better?" I said, "I feel free." He laughed. "Ryan Carter, free? That's a first." I said, "It's not freedom if you can't earn it." He said, "Then you're earning it." I smiled. Exactly. I walked past mirrors and barely recognized myself. Not the Ryan Carter who cried over betrayal. Not the Ryan Carter who felt small and powerless. This Ryan Carter was strong, focused, alive. Jake said, "You're building more than muscles." I said, "Exactly what I want." Night turned into morning. Morning into afternoon. Sweat, effort, patience. Every day a step away from the past. I blocked the last number one evening. Lily Morgan's name gone. Silence. I said, "This is mine now." Jake laughed. Ryan Carter talking like a hero. I said, "Maybe I am." Marcus texted, "Keep it up." I typed, "I will." I ran again that night, chest heaving, mind clear, hands steady. I had rebuilt Ryan Carter from nothing and nothing would break me again. Marcus called me early one morning. "Ryan Carter, you'll want to hear this." I said, "What now?" Marcus laughed. "Dylan Brooks is failing classes." I snorted. "Finally." Marcus said, "It gets better. Lily Morgan isn't doing great either. Heard she's depressed." I said, "Serves them right." Marcus frowned. "Ryan Carter, don't sound too happy about this." I said, "I'm content. Not happy." Marcus said, "Content? That's new." I said, "Some wounds just stop hurting." Later that day I scrolled through my phone. A message from Sophia Turner popped up. "Hey Ryan Carter, you awake?" I typed, "Yeah." She replied, "Can we talk?" I typed, "Sure." We talked late into the night. Sophia Turner didn't pry. She listened. I said everything I hadn't told Marcus. "Sophia Turner, you're stronger than you think." I typed, "Feels like I'm barely standing sometimes." Sophia Turner, "Then stand anyway." I laughed quietly. "That's actually good advice." Sophia Turner, "I know. That's why I said it." I realized something as we talked. Ryan Carter hadn't thought about hating Dylan Brooks in days. Not really. Lily Morgan's betrayal felt like a shadow I passed without noticing. I typed, "I think I'm healing." Sophia Turner, "Finally." I said, "Finally." The next morning Marcus called again. "Ryan Carter, check this out." I said, "What now?" Marcus said, "Dylan Brooks failed the midterm in economics. Worst grade in class." I said, "Figures." Marcus said, "And guess what? Lily Morgan is isolating herself. No friends around her. She's miserable." I said, "I don't feel anything." Marcus paused. "Not even a little satisfaction?" I said, "No. It's just distance. Distance. That's all I felt." My chest didn't tighten. My stomach didn't churn. I wasn't bitter. I was free. I spent the day working with Jake Wilson. Lifting steel, running errands, sweating. Physical pain was still honest, clean. Mental pain was fading. Marcus texted later, "You still alive over there?" I typed, "Barely but better." Marcus, "Better is good." That night Sophia Turner called. "Hey Ryan Carter," Sophia Turner said. "Hey," I said. "Busy day?" "Yeah." "Lifting and thinking." Sophia Turner laughed softly. "Mostly lifting, I bet." "Mostly," I admitted. We talked again. This time about the future. Sophia Turner said, "Ryan Carter, you're changing? You don't even realize it." I said, "I'm trying not to realize it." Sophia Turner, "Good change doesn't need notice. You feel it inside." I paused. "Feels like peace." Sophia Turner, "Exactly." I hung up and stared at the ceiling. Ryan Carter was no longer the boy who collapsed when betrayed. No longer the one who felt crushed by Lily Morgan's lies. No longer the one whose nights were haunted by whispers and stolen dreams. Marcus called again. You won't believe this. Dylan Brooks skipped class today. Totally unprepared. I said, good for him. Marcus said, and Lily Morgan? She's crying alone in the library. I said, I don't care. Marcus sighed. Ryan Carter, are you sure? I said, I'm sure. I went online later. Sophia Turner was waiting in chat. Sophia Turner, how's your day? I typed quiet, peaceful, strange. Sophia Turner, you sound different. I typed I feel different. Sophia Turner, good different? I typed, yes. We talked again for hours. Ryan Carter found himself opening up without fear, without expectation. Sophia Turner never judged, never pressured, just listened. I realized hate had no place in my heart anymore. It was replaced with space, distance, a calm separation. Marcus texted, you're actually happy? I typed, happier than I've been in months. Marcus, glad to hear it. I thought about Dylan Brooks and Lily Morgan. Images came to mind. Dylan Brooks laughing, Lily Morgan crying. But the images were blurry, like watching through fog glass. Sophia Turner texted, sleep yet? I typed, not yet. Sophia Turner, good, me neither. I typed, feels nice to talk like this. Sophia Turner, it does. I smiled. Ryan Carter realized how far he'd come. Betrayal once ruled every thought. Now it was just another chapter closed. Marcus called one last time that week. Ryan Carter, you're different. I like it. I said, I feel different. Marcus said, better different. I said, exactly. The week ended. Dylan Brooks continued failing. Lily Morgan disappeared into her sadness. But Ryan Carter didn't watch. Ryan Carter moved forward. Ryan Carter breathed freely again. Sophia Turner and I chatted every night. Small laughs. Quiet moments. Plans for the future. Ryan Carter smiled more. Slept more. Thought clearly. The hate was gone. Only space remained. Only distance. Only the quiet peace of being untethered from pain. I typed to Sophia Turner one night, I think I'm really okay now. Sophia Turner, I've been waiting to hear that. I leaned back in my chair. The city lights flickered outside. Ryan Carter was alive, whole, and finally free. Distance was healing. Space was comfort. And karma had simply knocked quietly on its own. I stepped off the bus and breathed in the city air. It smelled like concrete, coffee, and opportunity. Ryan Carter felt different, stronger, lighter. Marcus texted, back in town? I typed, yeah. Marcus, finally. I walked through campus, my bag heavier but my shoulders straighter. Classes were starting again. A new program. A fresh start. Jake Wilson called earlier, Ryan Carter, you ready for this? I said, I've never been more ready. First day, I found Professor Adams' office. The door opened. Ryan Carter, Professor Adams said, eyes widening. Hello, Professor Adams, I said. You're back. I thought. I'm back, I said, letting the pause linger. Professor Adams smiled faintly. Different energy today. I needed it, I said. The semester began. I met classmates. New faces. New challenges. Ryan Carter listened, contributed, worked hard. No one whispered. No one judged. One afternoon, I ran into Dylan Brooks outside the lecture hall. Dylan Brooks smirked, arms crossed. Well, Ryan Carter, Dylan Brooks said. Back for more humiliation? I said, I'm back for progress. Dylan Brooks laughed. Progress? You. That's cute. I said, cute or not, I'm stronger. Dylan Brooks leaned closer. You think a new program changes anything? I said, it changes everything. Dylan Brooks scowled. We'll see. I walked past without flinching. Ryan Carter's heart didn't skip. Ryan Carter's chest didn't tighten. Dylan Brooks had no power here. Later, in the library, I noticed Lily Morgan staring from across the room. Her eyes wide. Mouth slightly open. She turned, then froze when our eyes met. I kept walking. Marcus leaned down from the aisle. You seeing this? I see it, I said. Lily Morgan tried to call, but I didn't answer. Ryan Carter wasn't chasing. Ryan Carter wasn't broken anymore. Classes continued. Ryan Carter excelled. Professors noticed. Professor Adams gave me a nod in the hall. Ryan Carter, Professor Adams whispered, proud of the work you've done. Thank you, Professor, I said. Even Dylan Brooks noticed. He avoided my gaze in lecture, muttered under his breath when I answered questions confidently, got frustrated during group work. Ryan Carter stayed calm. Ryan Carter stayed focused. One evening Marcus said, "You've changed the vibe on campus. Everyone notices." I said, "I just do my thing." Marcus said, "It's not just that. People respect you now. Dylan Brooks included." I laughed softly. "Doesn't matter. Respect doesn't fix betrayal." Marcus frowned. "But it shows strength." I said, "Exactly." Lily Morgan tried a few times to approach me in the cafeteria. Each time I looked up, caught her eyes and walked past. She cried once quietly and left. I didn't chase. I didn't look back. Ryan Carter didn't care. Ryan Carter was free. Jake Wilson called. "Saw Dylan Brooks today. Dude looked miserable." I said, "Good. Let him stew." Jake laughed. "He's trying to intimidate you, isn't he?" I said, "And failing." New friends in the program started asking Ryan Carter for advice. Small groups. Study sessions. Ryan Carter smiled more. Talked more. Laughed more. Marcus said, "You're leading now." I said, "Not leading. Just standing." One morning, Professor Adams stopped me outside the office. "Ryan Carter, notice anything?" I said, "Depends." Professor Adams smiled. "The power has shifted. You're in control." I nodded. "Feels good." "Not about them anymore," Professor Adams said. "Exactly," I said. Walking through campus that afternoon, I saw Dylan Brooks try to glare at me. Ryan Carter returned the look calmly, then kept moving. Dylan Brooks looked smaller somehow. Smaller and powerless. Lily Morgan was in the quad again. She saw me, froze, then quickly turned away. She approached once, then retreated, unsure. I felt nothing. Not anger. Not sadness. Just distance. Ryan Carter had healed. Ryan Carter had grown. Marcus texted later, "You're untouchable now." I typed, "Feels like it." That evening, I sat in the library with Sophia Turner online. "Sophia Turner, how's the first week?" I typed, "Stronger. Lighter. Focused." "Sophia Turner, that's good to hear." I typed, "It feels like I finally own my life." "Sophia Turner, you do." Ryan Carter smiled at the message. At the new start. At the power he finally held over his own heart and mind. No whispers followed. No lies haunted. No one could intimidate. No one could break him. Dylan Brooks and Lily Morgan were ghosts of the past. Ryan Carter's present was his own. Strong. Free. Whole. And the shift wasn't temporary. Ryan Carter felt it in his chest, in his hands, in every step across the campus. The power had shifted and Ryan Carter finally stood tall. I got a text from Lily Morgan first thing in the morning. "Ryan Carter, can we talk?" I didn't reply. Marcus called. "Ryan Carter, she's persistent." I said, "Not persistent enough." Later, Lily Morgan appeared outside my new program building. Eyes red, voice trembling. "Ryan Carter," Lily Morgan said. "I ruined everything." I said, "You did." Lily Morgan shook her head. "I didn't mean. I didn't think." I said, "You made choices." She cried silently. "I lost you. I lost myself too." I said, "You lost trust. That can't be undone." She fell to her knees. "I'm so sorry." I looked at her, calm. Ryan Carter didn't feel anger. Not anymore. Only the stillness of someone who had healed. Marcus appeared beside me. "Ryan Carter, are you okay?" I said, "I'm fine." Lily Morgan whispered, "I never knew what I had until it was gone." I said, "Then you know now." She said, "Can you forgive me?" I said, "Silently maybe. But don't expect me to forget." She nodded slowly, tears streaming. "I understand." Later that week, I ran into Dylan Brooks in the hallway. His expression was different. Broken. Defeated. "Ryan Carter," Dylan Brooks said, voice low. "I messed up." I said, "That's obvious." Dylan Brooks ran a hand through his hair. "Scholarship's gone. I don't know how to fix anything." I said, "You can't fix the past." He swallowed. "I regret everything." Lily Morgan. "The classes I failed." I said, "Regret is just recognition. It doesn't repair." He nodded, looking smaller than ever. "I wanted to be respected. To be someone." I said, "Respect is earned, not demanded." Dylan Brooks looked away. "I lost everything." I said, "Then maybe you'll finally understand." Later, Olivia Brooks, Dylan Brooks' sister, found me outside the library. "Ryan Carter?" I said, "Yes." Olivia Brooks said, "Dylan Brooks, he regrets it. All of it. I wanted you to know." I said, "I know." Olivia Brooks hesitated. "He's ashamed. He's Broken. I said, acknowledged. Olivia Brooks said, thank you, for being you. I said, you're welcome. The week passed. Lily Morgan avoided me mostly. Dylan Brooks avoided me entirely. Ryan Carter walked the campus freely. Strong. Calm. Unbothered. Marcus texted, you're untouchable now. I typed, feels like it. Evenings were quiet. Sophia Turner and I chatted online, small smiles and light conversation. No bitterness lingered. Ryan Carter felt free. Lily Morgan's name came to mind sometimes. A flash of memory. A smile. Ryan Carter let it pass. No heartache. Only understanding. Marcus called. Ryan Carter, you look peaceful. I said, I am. Not because they suffer. Not because I triumph. Because I chose me. Marcus said, that's powerful. I said, it's necessary. One afternoon, Dylan Brooks tried to approach me. Ryan Carter, can we talk? I said, no. He said, I need to apologize. I said, done. Say what you need to others. I'm moving forward. He nodded, small and silent, and left. Lily Morgan texted once, I hope you're okay. I didn't reply. Ryan Carter didn't need closure from her. The lesson had been learned. Olivia Brooks stopped me in the hallway. Ryan Carter, he thanks you. I said, I understand. Marcus appeared later. You're untouchable. But you're not cruel. I said, kindness doesn't mean weakness. We walked the campus paths together, shadows long in the late afternoon sun. Ryan Carter felt a clarity he hadn't known in years. Sophia Turner called that evening. How's Ryan Carter today? I said, calm. Free. Whole. Sophia Turner laughed softly. Finally. I said, it's a good feeling. We talked until late. Ryan Carter realized the peace didn't come from others' regret. It came from the choice to release hate. To stop chasing what was lost. To choose himself. Marcus called before bed. Ryan Carter, proud of you. Really? I said, thank you. Ryan Carter stared at the ceiling, thinking of Lily Morgan, Dylan Brooks, and even the pain that had come before. It was gone. Faded into lessons. I whispered, I forgive silently. I don't forget. But I choose me. The night air was quiet outside my window. Ryan Carter closed his eyes, chest steady, mind clear. Tomorrow classes would start. People would look. Whispers might rise. Dylan Brooks might fume. Lily Morgan might regret again. I didn't care. Ryan Carter had power. Ryan Carter had strength. Ryan Carter had chosen the only person who mattered. I smiled finally fully. And for the first time in a long time, Ryan Carter felt complete. I stood at the edge of the auditorium, hood heavy on my shoulders, tassels swinging lightly as I breathed in the sea of graduates. Ryan Carter felt different, lighter, stronger. Oh. Marcus leaned over. Ryan Carter, can you believe this? I smiled faintly. Feels surreal. Marcus grinned. You earned every second of this. I looked toward the crowd. My mother waved, eyes shining. Sophia Turner sat nearby, her hand raised in a small wave. Hey Ryan Carter, Marcus whispered. Look at them. They're proud. I nodded. I know. The ceremony began. Names were called. Ryan Carter, walking across the stage, shaking hands with Professor Adams, feeling the weight of accomplishment instead of betrayal. Congratulations, Ryan Carter, Professor Adams said, smiling. Thank you, Professor, I said, steady and calm. I walked off the stage, hood swinging back in rhythm with my steps. Marcus clapped beside me. You're glowing, Marcus said quietly. I guess I am, I replied, glancing toward the crowd. From the back I saw Lily Morgan. She sat stiffly, eyes wide, hands clutching her bag. Not approaching. Not daring. Ryan Carter didn't care. No anger. No longing. Only the quiet knowledge that she could no longer reach him. Marcus leaned close. See that? I do, I said. After the ceremony, people swarmed around. Pictures, congratulations, hugs. I hugged my mother first. Ryan Carter, you've made me so proud, my mother said, tears glistening. I did what I had to, I said softly. She smiled. You've become everything I hoped for. Sophia Turner approached, her laptop bag slung over her shoulder. Ryan Carter, congrats. You did it. Thanks, Sophia Turner, I said, smiling wider than usual. Couldn't have done it without you. She laughed softly. You could have? You just didn't know it yet. Marcus nudged me. Time for photos? Sure, I said. We lined up, classmates snapping pictures. Ryan Carter felt calm. Complete. No whispers haunted me. No shadows lingered. The weight of betrayal had been lifted, replaced with clarity. Later Marcus said, "You think they understand now?" I asked, "Who?" "Dylan Brooks. Lily Morgan. Everyone who thought they could break you." I chuckled softly. "They'll understand eventually. Maybe. But I don't need them to." Marcus frowned. "That's powerful." I said, "It's freedom." A group of new friends joined us, offering congratulations. Ryan Carter felt warmth spread through him. Acceptance. Genuine. Nothing forced. I noticed Lily Morgan again, standing at the far side, watching quietly. She wasn't crying. Not really. Just still. I didn't approach. Didn't acknowledge. Ryan Carter had no need. Peace was better than confrontation. Marcus whispered, "You really have changed." "I think so," I said. The day passed in laughter, pictures, congratulations. Ryan Carter smiled at every word, every hand extended. No bitterness. No hatred. Just growth. Even Dylan Brooks appeared later, looking awkward and smaller than ever. He avoided my eyes, muttered something under his breath, then walked away. Marcus said, "Finally understands his place?" I said, "Maybe. Maybe not. Doesn't matter." Sophia Turner nudged me. "Ryan Carter, look at yourself. You're standing tall. You earned this." "I know," I said. "And it feels right." We walked outside afterward, sunlight hitting the steps of the auditorium. Ryan Carter breathed in deeply. Crisp air, warm sun. Freedom. Marcus grinned. "Ryan Carter, we made it." "We did," I said. My mother hugged me again. "No one could have endured what you did and come out like this." I said softly, "I didn't just endure. I rebuilt." Sophia Turner smiled. "Rebuilt stronger than before." I looked around at the crowd, at friends, at family. At Lily Morgan, distant but watching. Dylan Brooks, gone into the throng. Ryan Carter finally understood. The betrayal, the pain, the nights spent alone, none of it destroyed him. I laughed quietly. Not mockingly. Not bitterly. Just relief. Marcus elbowed me. "You're grinning like an idiot." "I'm happy," I said. "Truly happy." Sophia Turner raised an eyebrow. "Finally?" "Finally," I said. Even Lily Morgan couldn't touch this feeling. Ryan Carter didn't need to chase forgiveness. Didn't need to demand it. He simply chose himself. We took pictures at the steps. Ryan Carter in the center, shoulders back, chin high. Marcus and Sophia Turner flanking him. My mother beside me, smiling brighter than any light. I glanced one last time toward Lily Morgan. Her expression held regret, but I didn't see pain. I only saw a girl who had been a chapter, not the whole book. Marcus whispered, "You've grown so much." "I know," I said. "And it's only the beginning." Later, as the sun dipped lower, casting golden light across campus, Ryan Carter walked toward the parking lot. Each step felt lighter than the last. Stronger. Free. Marcus called, "One more stop? Coffee?" "Let's go," I said. Sophia Turner laughed. "Careful, Ryan Carter. Graduation might be over, but the journey isn't." "I know," I said. "And I'm ready for it." Ryan Carter realized as he climbed into the car that betrayal didn't break him. It rebuilt him. Pain didn't define him. The lessons did. Every scar, every sleepless night, every tear, they shaped the man he had become. And now Ryan Carter was whole. Finally. I woke early, sunlight spilling across the room, warm and soft. Ryan Carter stretched, feeling the weight of the past years fade a little more each day. No whispers. No shadows. Just calm. Marcus texted, "Coffee later?" I typed, "Sure. Meet me at the usual place." Sophia Turner called as I walked to the kitchen. "Morning, Ryan Carter," Sophia Turner said. "Morning," I replied, pouring a cup of coffee. "You're up early." "I like quiet mornings," I said. Sophia Turner laughed softly. "You've changed. Calm, focused, peaceful." "I've earned it," I said. Walking to the cafe, the city felt different. Brighter. Fuller. Ryan Carter noticed details he hadn't before. The way sunlight hit buildings, the sound of footsteps in rhythm, the chatter of people moving forward. Marcus was already there, sipping his coffee. "Morning, Ryan Carter. You look content." "I am," I said. "Feels good." Marcus grinned. "That's the new you. No anger, no bitterness?" "No," I said. "Just space. Freedom." Sophia Turner arrived, smiling. "Ryan Carter, ready for today?" "Always," I said. We ordered breakfast and sat outside. The warmth of the sun matched the warmth of being surrounded by people who mattered. Marcus said, "Ryan Carter, I've got to ask, do you ever think about them?" I paused. Sometimes. Lily Morgan. Dylan Brooks. But it's like looking at a photograph. Memories, yes. Pain, no. Sophia Turner nodded. That's healthy. I forgive, I said. Silently. Don't forget. But I choose myself. Marcus raised his cup. To Ryan Carter then. The man we've watched grow from broken to unstoppable. I smiled faintly. Thanks. But it wasn't about being unstoppable. It was about being whole. We laughed quietly. Conversation flowed, light and warm. Ryan Carter noticed he no longer needed validation. No one could shake this peace he'd earned. Later, I walked alone along the park path. Wind brushed my face. Trees swayed. Ryan Carter inhaled, feeling alive fully. A memory flickered, Lily Morgan's tears, Dylan Brooks' guilt, the night spent staring at walls. They weren't chains anymore. Lessons. Fuel. Evidence of growth. Marcus called. You're thinking too much, Ryan Carter? I am, I admitted. But it's good. Reflecting without pain is rare. Sophia Turner's message came through. Coffee tomorrow? I typed. Absolutely. Ryan Carter smiled. Plans. Life. Light. All moving forward. In the evening I sat by the window. City lights sparkled, alive. Ryan Carter watched and felt a sense of calm that was profound, quiet, complete. Marcus called again. You okay there? I'm more than okay, I said. I'm alive. I'm free. I'm me. Sophia Turner messaged, Good night, Ryan Carter. Good night, I typed. The past would always exist. Ryan Carter acknowledged it, learned from it, and finally let it sit behind him. No hate. No obsession. Only understanding. I thought about graduation, the faces of family and friends, the distance of Lily Morgan and Dylan Brooks. None of it controlled me. Ryan Carter had the power now. The peace now. The choice now. A soft smile spread across my face. This is the life I build, I whispered to myself. Not the one taken from me. Not the one ruined. But mine. Wind rustled the curtains, gentle and warm. Ryan Carter leaned back, chest steady, mind clear. Tomorrow would bring challenges. Maybe doubts. But Ryan Carter knew how to face them now. With strength. With calm. With a heart no one could touch. The city lights shimmered. The world moved. And Ryan Carter, finally whole, moved with it. I closed my eyes, feeling the deep, quiet satisfaction of surviving, growing, and choosing myself above all else. This was the man I had become. Strong. Free. Whole. No betrayal. No pain. Only lessons and a life rebuilt stronger than ever. And for the first time Ryan Carter truly smiled, fully, completely. The journey had ended. A new one had begun.